I met one pastor who said that I had a calling. But it was later on, I was somewhere again, and this pastor repeated this calling. But this time the pastor said, it was Ifa.
We're going to be looking at one of such traditions of men. The Bible tells us that we have been redeemed from. I no longer dwell on the mistakes I've made, the failures, the controversies and accusations don't bother me. But the good, the bad, and the ugly have culminated in making me the woman I am today.
I was so poor, poor people used to call us poor.
Because of my level of financial status then, I would say, I had one shirt I was wearing every time. In the evening, I wash it.
Put it in front of the fan?
Yeah, put it in front. In the morning, I would use it again.
I started smoking marijuana with the Bible in Belgium in my hotel room. Which I
What, you used to tear the Bible?
I tore it, I started smoking, and I started telling myself it tastes sweeter. And from then on, I started smoking with the Bible.
She came to me and said, Richard has passed on. And I just took hold of my clothes as if to tear them off. At that point, I felt that God had answered my prayer. So I said, thank you, Jesus.
Good.
7 people.
Yeah, I lost
Within
24 hours.
That was then. There's no product without a process. And you'll be, but God says you'll be in due season. We celebrate the story behind the glory, and that's to the glory of God. Erelu, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
The pastor came to you and said it was Ifa, not God.
Yes, the first pastor that I mentioned was a male.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, this pastor was a female.
Okay.
And she specifically said that I had a calling, but that God, in His infinite mercy, will let me know what the calling is.
Okay.
But that she felt it was Ifa that I'm being called to take care of. I said, what Ifa? What am I meant to do? However, I guess that was the beginning. I went somewhere and someone approached me and was very clear. The person said, you are wife of Ifa, you should go and consult the oracle. And that I needed to hold on to Ifa as a guide to my life. So, but I was unwell. I was not sleeping well. I was seeing quite a lot of things that I could not explain. And I was being told many stories by my ancestors. I was very clear, but I had not heard any clear direction. So in the end, I remember going somewhere, and the Babalawo, the Ifa priest said, "Ha, you are a wife of Ifa?" I said, "Well done, wife of Ifa." "And who is Ifa?" He said, "You have to marry Babalawo." I said, "Well done. And what am I supposed to do with Babalawo? Carry all these goat and ram everywhere to the crossroad? Me? Where is this Babalawo on earth who is fit to marry me? And what am I supposed to do with my life?" He said, "My daughter, it is true. You are meant to be the wife of Babalawo." I said, "Wonderful. Baba, I'm going." He mentioned things about goat. I said, "There's no money for any goat, because as far as I'm concerned, no." So I went. But a few days later, I had a dream. And in that dream, yes, specifically, I was told that the dream, I heard the voice of my paternal grandfather talking about the shrine in our family compound, talking about how I came to be, what kind of naming ceremony I had, and that I have got to take care of the traditional religion, the institution of Ifa and Orisha. I recall being called Orisha specifically. And there was another voice. The voice said, look to Jesus. Conflicting story. Look to Jesus. Interesting enough, soon after that, I went to a function in Abeokuta, and our dearest Papa Obas was there. And I wanted to ask a question when I put my hand up. He said, Yorisha, Yorishoko. I said, no, I wasn't. Whatever it was, it soon became clear as time went on that Ifa is my calling. But I was still struggling with all of that when sadly I was taking my time. I think the ancestors were getting cross. I was unwell. I could not get out of the room I was in beyond the living room. All these spirits just moved in. And all of a sudden, I just carried my bag and ran back here to Nigeria.
All this happened in London?
Yes, because I was going backwards and forwards. My mentor, my late KBC, had suggested I come and contribute meaningfully to the society here. And I recall having the privilege of sponsoring 2 candidates in the political circles. When I arrived, my KBC was unwell. That's my first task. Now I look back. I arrived in July 2008. He was unwell. But round about the 19th or 20th of August, I saw him in a dream. He said I should buy a goat. I should go to Akesta Market in Djibouti to buy a goat. I won't call it goat, maybe ram is the best word. And that I will also have a she-goat. That when I entered the market, I would see that way. I took that action. It happened exactly that way. Few days he told me that his death will soon be announced. He was in Britain. I had crossed along the line. So he simply said, on the day of the official announcement, I should take the goat with me. I handed it over to the traditional chief there, and I did. Little did I know he was offering a goat for himself. But later on, I'm an early riser. I woke up one morning and I was sitting on my bed. I just felt the presence of a spirit. Gradually, it turned out to be my late KBC. I couldn't hear anything. I was deaf. I was just glaring at this spirit. And I tried to kneel down to apologize that I had not got there. The spirit went. But it was as if I was somewhere else in the world. It was just captivating of that nature. The only thing I remember was he said, I'm here now, I'm well. And soon after that, all kind of things, I started for the first time to hear the voices. And it's not mania. I think that was when the voice then confirmed that here's the first task. He, the spirit, had got over there and had realized I should have been answering my calling, and I was dragging my feet. But he himself had predicted I had a role in the traditional institution. But that was how he started telling me a lot of things. The spirit started coming about 5 to 3, and the spirit used to want me to leave the bedroom to sit in the sitting room. It was very forceful. He would say, pick up your pen and write. Usually, like a lecture between 3 o'clock and 3:30. That was the first time he told me that there's life after death. That when a soul departs this world, God gives the said soul the opportunity to seek forgiveness and take remedial action. When I became a chief, they placed the Bible in my treasure box. He asked me to go and take the Bible. Specifically, he asked me to look to the book of Proverbs, that in that I'll find wisdom and knowledge. For the task ahead of me, I will need wisdom and knowledge.
Hold the thoughts, hold the thoughts. Don't go away. We'll see you after this time.
And he came into the world.
You're welcome back. You got the Bible?
Yes.
You read the book of
Yes.
Proverbs?
And then he said, said in this journey, your first requirement is obedience. Obedience. That was when he confirmed that I had not been obedient to the calling. So he gave me 5 names of people to go and apologize to on his behalf. Very real. Then he went on, he started telling me about his life, things I didn't know. Then he eventually told me that when he departed this world, his body was handed over to the Odis, in bracket, Erelu or slaves, and that he experienced brutality, that the body was treated like that of a criminal, and that they took bits and pieces for their own use. He went on further to be specific as to those who were involved. He led me to where the coffin that I didn't believe. I got myself incense to clear out this spirit. I used to run away from the room I was in, and there are times I actually slept in my car because the spirit, he moved in. This spirit moved in. He was like living a life. Then he specifically told me that his body was being kept somewhere. He should have been buried. He led me to believe that a lot of shinap was being poured on his head. And one day, there was a chair next to my bed. A goat appeared. And that goat had a rope tied around the neck, almost suffocating. And the face turned to his. And that was that. Then he came back and specifically, transparently, the heart, the heart and the blood, and said, go to this person before 6:30, because this person goes to farm, and ask for my heart. Call this person and find out about the coffin and go and bury. I called the person about the coffin. The person confirmed the coffin was with him. I said I was coming. When I got there, he had disappeared. When I arrived in the town, I heard the voice. Little voice said, pointed to where exactly his body was brought into when he came into the country, because he died in London. Eventually, I went to the guy with the heart, and I said, Baba, what are you doing with Shataloi's heart? He looked at me. I said, go and bring the heart. The heart should have been buried. Where's the body then? He said, you're looking at this like a white woman. This is the tradition. I said, go and bring the heart. Then he said, oh, there was an agreement and the heart had been appropriately. Then I kept saying, where was the heart? Then he went out, and by the time he came back, he didn't know what to do. But when he said it had been prepared, something told me to get up. I got up. But Kabiyesi still kept saying, Erelu wa gbe mi. Erelu wa gbe mi. Erelu mo fẹ́ sinmi, meaning Erelu, come and carry me. Erelu, I want to rest. And that was how the spirit was so restless and angry and running around. And he even asked me to call State Security Services, the voice. I'm British High Commission. I'm afraid I did attempt to do both of that. Then he gave me names I should go and talk to. Even kings like himself. I'm so disgusted. A particular king. I went to him. They should have explained because I lived abroad. That was how I was searching for his body everywhere. Then I wanted to know exactly what happened to him. It costed me 4.2 million naira. Take that from me. Trying to get to the bottom of the truth. What the spirit was telling me. what did happen to my Kabisi. Especially was insisting that he wanted a grave with a tombstone. He sent me to Oni of Ife. I went there. When I said Kabisi before him, I was weeping. I couldn't say anything. I investigated what happened to the body of the late Sergeant Ode-Ręmo. I went to Oyo. He wanted me to go to Oyo. I went to Benin. He wanted me to go to Benin. He was very specific. He wanted to convince me that there was no justifiable reason why his body had not been laid to rest. It was so difficult. I remember I had to call one of the traditional chiefs like me, and I said, look, was there any kind of traditional ritual you should have done involving me? Because what was going on was just mind-blowing. And the person said, 50 days after his death, they should have had the sacrifice. I said, okay, let me look at the calendar. 70 days after, what sacrifice now? I was angry. I put the phone down. But I have to thank an organization that he belonged to. They had sort of a service of song for him on the 12th of February, 2009. And that was when the spirit settled. Till today, my Kabiyesi is still saying, Erelu, my head is somewhere.
Is that the tradition? What? I'm going to ask you a double-barreled question.
Yes.
Is that the tradition, one? And what have they done with his heart? Why did they have to...
Well, the first thing I'll say is that tradition is a behavior associated with the society, with time and place. And custom is the passing on of that tradition. So tradition is man-made, is not God-made, it's a behavior. Any behavior is subject to change. Historically, kings were buried whole with live human beings who were slaves, one to the right, one to the left, and goods. The belief then was that a king had to arrive in heaven with slaves.
To serve him in heaven.
And goods. But they moved away from that. And now we have the slaves. When a king dies, with my king, they took 750,000 naira to perform a ritual. There was a chief, the town has
Hold that thought. I am speechless. We'll see you after this time out.
He's what makes sense, and he came into the world.
You're welcome back. You said they took 750,000.
Yes. To perform a ritual, which they call, when the body was taken into the town, they took the body into the old palace where he was installed as a king, and that was where I was installed as a Erelu, because he did build a new palace with an annex of residence. They did not take the body straight to the palace he built, because if they had, they would have looted the whole place. That's also supposed to be tradition. When they took him to the old palace, the body was left there, and they said Oro. Oro is kind of a traditional fetish belief that the spirits have descended and women should disappear and everybody should disappear. Then they put white powder or effun on his face. They threw the rope to the neck. They dragged the body out. Then they dragged the body around. They were raining abuses. Sure. The tradition also involved accusing him of things he did do that he should have done. My Kabiyesi spent a lot of his years anti-fetish practices and believed mainly in God, and also joined the satsang. It's a kind of oriental order from India. He meditated a lot and believed in spirituality. So they dragged him here and there. Eventually they took him to a place.
His corpse.
The remains, yes. They took to a place, they suspended that. The reason why they put the rope is because they must not use sharp implement to remove the head. They need the head. That is the head they turn to Orisha. Because the belief is that a king is the second in command to Orisha. So they go and suspend because it's not easy to yank off to remove the head. So they were putting this chin up and they were pulling. In the meantime, they were dehydrating the body into a bowl. The water they use to treat gonorrhea. And supposedly if a woman uses it and doesn't want to become pregnant, in the meantime nails hair, taking bits for their own fetish purpose. Now, this was done by the Odis.
How about the hearts?
Eventually, when the head had come off, that was when they could turn the body. They caused an incision, they took out the heart to be eaten by the incoming king. Then they cut, yes.
Excuse me. They took out the hearts.
Yes.
To be eaten by the incoming king.
Yes. They believe that transfers authority. Authority is not in the heart. But after that, they cut into pieces. Now, they put a coffin and put the head inside. I also have to state that the body was almost rotten and smelling because they were busy with the money. 750,000 naira, 750,000 naira without doing anything. They love money.
To be the sacrifice.
Well, they wanted about 3 million then to carry out the ritual. Then it got 750,000. Now in the end, they took all the bits that they wanted. They took the head to a place called Ilioshi. There's a particular area they are supposed to take the head to. It didn't happen quick enough. They were very disorganized. My KBSC from the spirit world told me that there were words or incantations they had to use as they touched the body. This is one of the reasons why my KBSC was distressed. He realized they didn't remember the words. So they were kind of amateur. Let's even assume that's what was to be done. Because the last ritual was done 25 years before my late KBSC. Even the pastor or a reverend that conducts funeral rites at the cemetery or in church still read. That's somebody who does it every day. Let alone a pack of illiterates with nothing written down. For trying to remember. Whilst they were messing around with the remains of my KBSC, that was why he was really angry. I repeat, his body was treated like that of a criminal. He said he considered body sacred. He even took other kings to come and tell me that this had to be done. As I said, until that service of songs, he was a mason, and that was done by the lodge. That was when it settled down. It settled down, his spirit settled down, and I started seeing him with a collar. He himself should have been a minister of God. Again, they said if I took him, from what it led me to believe, if he had not been a king, he would have ended up being a pastor. He came from a Christian background, Methodist precisely, and he would have been an ordained minister. And interestingly, he did build a community hall. And I remember one day I was saying to him, "Kabi, you are supposed to use this thing for a hall." But he was appalled by the behavior of, as he used to say, the Jesus Christ people. And I'll tell you some more about that because he has turned out to be my educator. He has suggested I ought to have tutorials that he told me about Christ. He led me to believe that Jesus Christ, as you look up to in the task ahead of me, he confirmed the traditional calling that Ifa represent Orunmila. That Orunmila is so sick and tired of these fetish people that he just wants to get himself, Orunmila, from the hands of those who forever are asking for Agbo. I have my own Ifa. It was my Kabiyesi who told me never, ever to let anybody worship that Ifa again.
Hold the thoughts. Erelu,
Yes.
you have to join us again. And I promise you, the next one will be the concluding parts.
Thank
This
you.
is very interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you very much.
Viewers, thank you very much. I'm sure you are shocked and petrified as I am. But those questions you want me to ask her, I'm going to ask her in the next, in the last and concluding episode. Thank you for your time. My name is Yudi. See you next week, and have a wonderful week ahead of you. Goodbye.